Okay, we're going to start by reacting calcium chloride with sodium bicarbonate. So here I have measured calcium chloride, and it is 2.26 grams. And these were close to the measurements that we came out in part 1 of the lab. They're not exact because, as you can see, the calcium chloride is in chunks, so it's not the easiest to get just right. So 2.26 grams is as close as I could get. As far as the sodium bicarbonate, same thing. I couldn't get it perfect, so I have 3.39 grams of sodium bicarbonate. Now, if I put them together in their current state, they're not going to react. So actually, I'm going to mix them both with water. I'm going to dissolve them both, and I'm going to then mix them to get them reacting. They should both completely dissolve, and it'll take a minute for them to dissolve, which is it's fine. But they will both completely dissolve eventually. Both of them are ionic, and when they dissolve, the water almost acts like a mechanism to allow the different ions to interact with one another. In their solid form, they're not really going to react too much. They won't react at all, really. So it's the water that's allowing that to happen. Now, as you can see, I mean, it's happening slowly. They are both going to dissolve into water. And when they dissolve completely, it should be clear. So once they dissolve completely, it will be clear. And once it's clear, we know all of the solid particles have gone. That's when we are going to start the reaction. That one is just about dissolved. This one is going pretty good. This one is the calcium chloride. It had a few other chunks. Now, once we mix them, we're going to see a reaction occur. And we're looking for a precipitate. So the two substances going into the reaction dissolve completely, like salt, like sugar, whatever. And then we're going to have a substance that does not dissolve. That's what's going to be created with the reaction. That's going to be a precipitate. All right, looks like we're just about ready to go. Okay. So that's what will be created with the precipitate. So all I'm going to do is pour them together. And it might be hard to see, but hopefully you could see that that is clear. There, that's better. And it's going to turn white once we mix them together. That is the reaction that just occurred. Now, if you could hear very close, and I'm sure you can't hear in the computer, there is a sizzling happening, a very low sizzling, which is the reaction taking place. Part of this reaction is carbon dioxide gas being released. And the more I mix it, the more the sizzling is occurring. Now this is form, it turned white, and I'm going to hold this up to the camera. I don't know if you could see it, but probably not. Doesn't look like it. The white's almost in chunks, and actually that's the precipitate that formed. The white is going to settle out of the solution, almost like snow in a snow globe. If we left this here long enough, all of the white would settle to the bottom. And that's what we want to collect. Now I'm going to stir this a little bit longer because I want it to keep reacting. I want the reaction to finish because I want it to keep forming more of these particles. So let me just stir it a few more times. And then we're going to collect the product of this, which is calcium carbonate. That's what we formed. And we're going to collect it in this filter paper. After we collect it, we're going to leave it to dry over break. And we can then measure it. We do have one more thing to do, though, before we move on, and that is I'll show you our apparatus, what we're going to be dealing with here. So here I have a flask with a funnel in it and a piece of filter paper. The filter paper is going to filter out the product. Now, before I do this, since I'm going to measure this in the filter paper, I have to get the mass of the empty filter paper, without anything in it. And I just put that on the scale. The filter paper is 1.14 grams. Now I'm going to fold it in half twice, and I make like a funnel out of it. That's where I'm going to pour this in. I'm going to pour it right in the top. And it's going to go down. So I'm going to pour all of this in, and it will collect all of the solid particles. And then next week we will measure it once we get all the solid particles collected and once it has completely dried.